Welcome to Truth Mirrors, where hidden realities are finally revealed.
Picture this, December 2024. While you were sleeping, shopping, scrolling through your phone, completely oblivious, China just pulled off the most devastating silent coup in human history. No tanks rolled, no nukes launched, no CNN breaking news alert. Just one quiet policy announcement that detonated an economic atomic bomb so powerful, so catastrophically brilliant, that Elon Musk, the richest man on Earth, is literally losing his mind right now. Trump? He's sweating bullets. Pentagon war planners? They're staring at computer screens realizing their entire battle strategy just became worthless. Because China didn't just make a move. They revealed they've already won a war America didn't even know it was fighting. And here's the part that'll make your blood run cold. If the CIA had intel 20 years ago that China would gain this kind of stranglehold over America's throat, we wouldn't have sanctioned them, we wouldn't have tariffed them, we would have glassed them. Full stop. Because what China just did is the equivalent of cutting off oxygen to the entire Western world. And they did it with one medal, one decision, one masterstroke. Welcome to the end of American dominance. Let me show you how we got checkmated. December 3rd, 2024. Mark this date. This is when American hegemony died, and 99% of people have no clue it even happened. China announced export restrictions on silver, and the entire foundation of Western civilization just cracked down the middle. You think I'm being dramatic? Listen to what happened to silver prices in 24 hours. They exploded 57%. 57% in one day. Markets that were supposed to be stable, predictable, controlled, they went absolutely haywire. But here's what the mainstream media isn't telling you, what they can't tell you because it's too terrifying. This isn't about silver prices. This is about the systematic dismantling of American power, using a weapon so subtle, so brilliant, that our intelligence agencies, with their billion-dollar budgets and satellite surveillance, never saw it coming. China just proved they can collapse the U.S. economy without firing a single bullet. They can shut down our military-industrial complex without hacking a single computer. They can end the American century with one policy announcement. And they just showed us they're willing to do it. The dragon isn't coming. The dragon is already here, and it's hungry. Here's the dirty secret that'll make you sick to your stomach. China controls 50% of global silver refining. But wait, it gets worse, way worse. 80% of all silver mined on Earth comes out impure, mixed with copper, lead, zinc, gold. It's basically useless until it's refined. And who does that refining? China. Only China has built the infrastructure at the scale necessary to purify the world's silver supply. They didn't steal this power. They weren't handed it. They systematically, methodically, brilliantly built it, while America was playing global cop. Here's how they did it. 30 years ago, when American corporations were chasing quarterly profits and shipping jobs overseas, China made a calculated bet. They said, Americans think manufacturing is beneath them. They want clean office jobs and stock options, so we'll do the dirty work, the mining, the refining, the unglamorous industrial processing that makes modern life possible. And then they cornered the market, not just silver, rare earth elements, lithium processing, solar panel production, battery manufacturing. They looked at the entire supply chain of the 21st century and said, this will all belong to us. And American CEOs, they applauded. They called it free trade. They collected their bonuses while selling America's future to the highest bidder. Now, China owns the jugular vein of the global economy, and they just squeezed.
Here's exactly what China's new policy means and why it's absolutely catastrophic. Any company that wants to export refined silver from China now needs government approval. And that approval, it's only going to a handful of state-controlled entities. Translation, China's government now personally decides who gets silver and who doesn't. But the truly diabolical part? They're implementing a 50% retention policy. Mexico sends raw silver to China for refining, they get half back, maybe. Australia ships their silver ore, 50% comes back, eventually. The other 50%? Sorry, we need it for domestic use. You'll get it when we're done with it. Could be 2 years, could be 5, could be never. Do you understand what this means? This means every Tesla rolling off the production line needs Chinese approval. Every solar farm being built needs Chinese permission. Every F-35 fighter jet, every satellite, every data center powering artificial intelligence, they all need silver that China now controls. Elon Musk can't build his electric vehicle empire without China saying yes. Apple can't manufacture iPhones. Amazon can't expand AWS data centers. The entire Western tech economy just became dependent on the goodwill of Beijing. And if you think they won't use that leverage, you haven't been paying attention to how power actually works.
Let me paint you a picture of why silver is literally everything, and why China picking this metal specifically is genius-level strategic thinking. Silver is the most electrically conductive element on the periodic table. Nothing conducts electricity better. Not gold, not copper, nothing. And our entire modern world runs on electricity. Your smartphone has half a gram of silver in it. Doesn't sound like much? There are 6 billion smartphones on Earth. That's 3,000 metric tons of silver just in phones. Your laptop? Silver. Your car, even gas-powered cars, has over 15 grams of silver in the electrical systems. Electric vehicles? They use 3 to 4 times that amount. Solar panels are completely dependent on silver because it's the only metal efficient enough to convert sunlight to electricity at scale. The solar boom everyone's talking about? It requires 70 million ounces of silver annually. Every 5G tower uses silver. Every AI server farm, OpenAI, Google's DeepMind, Microsoft's Azure, they're all packed with silver-based components because AI requires massive computational power, and computational power requires optimal electrical conductivity. Defense systems are even worse. A single Tomahawk missile contains 500 ounces of silver. Fighter jets, satellites, radar systems, naval ships, they're loaded with it. Medical equipment, from X-rays to antibacterial coatings, depends on silver's unique properties. China didn't pick this metal randomly. They picked the one metal that modern civilization cannot function without. And now they own it. Here's the moment of brutal, ugly truth that American politicians don't want you to know. We can't do anything about this. Nothing. We're completely, utterly, embarrassingly helpless. Can't we just build our own refineries? Sure. Give us 10 to 15 years and $200 billion. Oh wait, we also need skilled workers who know how to operate industrial refineries. Where are we getting those? American workers? The same America where 70% of high school graduates can't do basic math? Where manufacturing knowledge has been lost for 2 generations? Where we can't even produce our own steel anymore. Here's how pathetic this has become. Apple, the most valuable company in American history, cannot manufacture iPhones in America. They tried. They failed miserably. Because we don't have the workforce, the supply chains, the institutional knowledge, or the infrastructure. We hollowed out our industrial base for 50 years, chasing financial engineering and quarterly earnings reports. We convinced ourselves that service economy meant we evolved beyond making physical things. We were idiots, and now we're paying the price. China didn't just build refineries. They built an entire civilizational infrastructure that took 4 decades to develop. You can't recreate that with tariffs and tough talk. Trump can rage tweet all he wants. Biden can form committees. It doesn't matter. China has us in a chokehold, and we can't break free because we're too weak, too deindustrialized, too dependent. This is what the end of empire looks like, and it's humiliating.
Let's rewind the tape and watch how China pulled off the greatest heist in economic history. In broad daylight, with everyone watching and nobody stopping them. The year is 1990. The Soviet Union is collapsing. America just won the Cold War. Francis Fukuyama declares the end of history. Liberal democracy has triumphed forever. American politicians are drunk on victory, convinced we're invincible. Meanwhile, in Beijing, Chinese strategists are studying American weaknesses. They're reading our playbooks, watching our mistakes, and formulating a plan. Here's what they figured out. Americans have a fatal flaw. We can't think beyond the next election cycle. We optimize for quarterly earnings. We chase short-term gains at the expense of long-term strategy. So China plays a different game. They think in decades, in generations. While Clinton, Bush, and Obama were fighting wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, burning $7 trillion in the desert, China was investing in infrastructure. While American politicians were arguing about tax cuts, China was building the world's largest high-speed rail network. While we were bailing out banks in 2008, China was cornering markets on rare earth elements. They bought mines in Africa, South America, Australia. They built refineries. They trained hundreds of thousands of engineers. They created supply chains. And here's the beautiful part. Western corporations helped them do it. Apple moved production to China for cheaper labor. Tesla needed Chinese battery suppliers. Every Silicon Valley company outsourced manufacturing. We handed them the keys to our own economy because it boosted stock prices. And now we're locked out of our own house.
Here's what happens next and why this gets exponentially worse from here. Silver prices have already shattered records, and they're not coming back down. But that's just the symptom. The disease is much deeper. Watch what's happening in real time. Investors are fleeing paper assets. They're dumping bonds. They're selling dollars. They're rushing into hard assets, gold, silver, Bitcoin, anything tangible that can't be printed or manipulated. Why? Because they can see the end game. The US dollar has been the world reserve currency since 1944, 80 years of dominance. Countries around the world hold dollars in reserve because dollars meant stability, liquidity, power. But that's evaporating. Right now, central banks are diversifying away from dollars at the fastest rate in history. China holds $3 trillion in foreign reserves. They're systematically converting it to gold, to yuan, to real assets. Russia already dumped their dollar holdings. India is negotiating trade deals in rupees and yuan. Saudi Arabia is discussing selling oil in currencies other than dollars. This is the petrodollar system collapsing in real time. And here's why the silver move is so devastating. It's not just economic warfare, it's psychological warfare. China is signaling to the world the American security guarantee is worthless. The dollar's stability is an illusion. Align with us or get left behind. And countries are listening because China can actually deliver what they promise. They can build your infrastructure. They can provide manufactured goods. They can supply critical resources. What can America offer? Lectures about democracy? Military threats? A declining currency? The emperor has no clothes, and everyone can see it now.
Now let's talk about the nightmare scenario that has Pentagon planners in absolute panic mode. Taiwan. the flashpoint everyone's been worried about for decades. Here's the official U.S. position. If China invades Taiwan, America will defend it. We'll send carrier strike groups, we'll enforce a blockade, we'll fight a war in the Pacific if necessary. Cool story. Now let me tell you what actually happens if that conflict starts. China doesn't need to sink American aircraft carriers, though they probably could with hypersonic missiles we can't defend against. They don't need to win a conventional military engagement. They just need to make one announcement. Effective immediately, all exports of silver, rare earth elements, and refined materials to the United States and its allies are suspended indefinitely. That's it. Game over. Within 30 days, American defense contractors can't produce weapons. Within 60 days, the tech sector starts collapsing. Within 90 days, the electrical grid starts having problems because we can't manufacture replacement components. Within 6 months, we're facing economic depression that makes 2008 look like a minor correction. China doesn't need to destroy American military capability. They can simply turn off the supply chain and watch us crumble from within. This is fifth-generation warfare. This is checkmate before the game even starts. And here's the really terrifying part. American war planners know this. They've run the simulations. They've done the analysis. And the conclusion is inescapable. We cannot win a sustained conflict with China because they control the resources we need to fight. So, all the tough talk about Taiwan, it's bluffing, and China knows we're bluffing. They've called our bluff, and we have no cards left to play. Time for the hardest truth of all, the one that destroys the American mythology we've been fed our entire lives. America is not exceptional anymore. We're not the indispensable nation. We're not the leader of the free world. We're a declining empire that's been coasting on past glory while the foundation rotted underneath us. And the evidence is everywhere once you're willing to see it. Our infrastructure is crumbling, rated D+ by civil engineers. Our education system ranks below Kazakhstan. Our manufacturing capacity is a shadow of what it was. Our political system is paralyzed by dysfunction. Our national debt is $36 trillion and growing by $1 trillion every 100 days. We spend more on military than the next 9 countries combined, but we haven't won a war since 1945. We can't build high-speed rail. We can't fix our own water systems. Remember Flint, Michigan? We can't even produce enough baby formula for our own population. But here's what really exposes the lie. We cannot function without China. Full stop. Take China out of the global supply chain and American society collapses within months. No phones, no computers, no medical equipment, no replacement parts for infrastructure, nothing. Meanwhile, if you remove America from China's supply chain, they'll be fine. They have alternative markets, they have domestic consumption, they have strategic reserves. The relationship is asymmetric. We need them far more than they need us, and they just proved it with silver. This is what the end of hegemony looks like. This is what happens when you prioritize financialization over production, when you chase quarterly profits instead of building long-term capacity, when you assume dominance is permanent. China didn't beat us through military conquest. They beat us through superior strategy, long-term thinking, and exploiting our own greed and short-sightedness. And now we're living with the consequences.
Here's the reality nobody in Washington wants to admit, but everyone around the world already knows. The 21st century belongs to China. Not America, not Europe, China. And it's not even close anymore. The Belt and Road Initiative has invested over $1 trillion in infrastructure across 70 countries.
Chinese companies are building ports, railways, power plants, and telecommunications networks on 6 continents. The Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank is challenging the IMF and World Bank. The yuan is becoming a legitimate alternative reserve currency. Chinese technology, from 5G to artificial intelligence to quantum computing, is matching or exceeding Western capabilities. And here's the kicker. China is doing all of this without firing a shot, without invading countries, without imposing regime change. They're simply offering a better deal. Work with us and we'll build your infrastructure. We'll provide capital. We'll transfer technology. We'll treat you as partners, not subordinates. Meanwhile, what's America's pitch? Submit to our rules-based international order? Accept our military bases on your soil? Let us overthrow your government if we don't like your policies? Oh, and here's an IMF loan with crippling austerity conditions attached. Which would you choose? The world is choosing China. Countries across Africa, Asia, Latin America, even parts of Europe, they're pivoting toward Beijing because Beijing can actually deliver results. And after this silver move, that pivot is going to accelerate because China just demonstrated they hold the real power, control over resources and production. The American empire was built on military might and dollar dominance, but military might is useless when you can't produce weapons, and dollar dominance is meaningless when nobody wants to hold dollars anymore. China understood something we forgot. Real power doesn't come from missiles or currency. It comes from making things, controlling resources, and thinking long-term. They've won the game while we were still arguing about the rules. The Chinese century has arrived. The only question left is how ugly will America's decline be? And based on what we're seeing with silver, the answer is very ugly indeed.
This is the reality the mainstream media won't show you. This is the truth the political establishment is desperate to hide. But you deserve to know what's really happening. Share this video, spread the word, because the world just changed and most people are still asleep. Don't forget to subscribe and drop your reaction in the comments. I want to hear what you think about this economic earthquake that just hit.
Thank you for watching Truth Mirrors, where we reflect what others hide. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay awake.